Stop making these mistakes. This isn't going to be your regular plant mistakes video. Like, don't overwater, don't underwater. You're not giving it enough light, you're giving it too much light. No, this video is going to be a little bit deeper than that. Hi, my name is Stephanie. I've been collecting houseplants since January of 2021. Even if I've learned lots along the way, I still feel like a relatively new plant parent. Here are some things that I recognize are mistakes, for me at least, and who knows, maybe you may view these as mistakes too. Curious? Let's go. Number one, stop keeping plants you don't like. You know which plants I'm talking about. The plant that's dusty, crusty, sitting in a corner, underwatered, forgotten. That one, you know what I'm talking about. Let it go. It's time to let it go. That, I think, is actually a very common mistake that even I'm very guilty of. Sometimes you buy a plant or you get excited about plants, you collect a bunch, and then you end up having a plant that maybe you're not in love with or isn't bringing you the most joy. And what ends up happening is because you're no longer in love with said plant, you sort of start to ignore it a little bit. And because you ignore it, it starts to decline. And now it starts to decline, you sort of feel guilty because it looks bad. And it's just not benefiting anyone. I think it's a Pothos Enjoy that I have. It's a plant that I was never quite in love with. I was gifted a few cuttings. I've had them for years and I don't love them. And so they look a little bit crusty, you know, they're not doing well. And I think it's just time to let them go. So if, you know, there are a couple plants around your space that you're not loving, I don't know, you may want to consider decluttering. You may feel like you've been relieved of a weight. So what I like to do with these plants is either rehome them, give them away, or sell those plants and make a little something off of them. But at the end of the day, these plants hopefully will go to a home that will help them to thrive and give them the attention that they deserve. Mistake number two, stop keeping duplicates. Okay, don't get me wrong. There are plants that maybe you absolutely love, your favorite plant, or plants that maybe were high-priced plants or they're super rare. Absolutely. I totally understand that you may want to keep a duplicate of it. Absolutely. But there are some plants that are quite common. And so sometimes maybe initially we love the plant so much. Like for me, when I first started collecting houseplants, I was in love with the fiddly fig, and I felt like I needed to have one on every floor of my space so that I can enjoy their huge, beautiful leaves everywhere I go. But eventually, not that I fell out of love with the plant, I just realized that I didn't need to have a plant, one of those in every corner. And that tends to happen with plants that are sort of easy to propagate, or plants that are cheap, you know, like pothos, plants like that. We tend to try to collect them and have lots hanging around our space. And don't get me wrong, maybe we love it and maybe they look great, they fill in spaces, but duplicates is a very quick and easy way to sort of not get tired of, but yeah, it sounds like a bad way to say, but you can quickly get tired of plants when you have too many of them in your space, especially if one's doing well and another one's not doing well. Yeah, I think for most plants, I'm not saying this for every situation, just having one beautifully growing version of this plant is sufficient. But you know what? If you like multiples of the same plant, you do you. I know for me, it's something that I talk myself into, and very quickly I realized it's a bad idea. Mistake number three. Stop getting carried away with propagations. I know when you first start collecting houseplants, there is sort of like a power, or you feel so accomplished and capable when you're able to take a plant, snip it, and duplicate it and make more of the plant and watch it grow roots. There are so many good feelings that go along with making propagations of your plants. Trust me, I know I have had a prop box. I know the feeling, but hear me out for a minute. The prop box can quickly become a burden instead of a joy. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something else to say, but yes, it can quickly become a burden. The reason is because we tend to fill the prop boxes with tons of little cuttings of this and that. They start to grow and get all tangled up, and then it becomes a hot mess that we dread cleaning out. And then you have all of these little plants, back to problem number 2, duplicates, and now you have the burden of wondering, what are you going to do with all of these 10 versions of the same plant? It can get so frustrating. So protect yourself and be mindful about making propagations. Maybe you have a plant that you want to make a fuller version of. Go for it. Absolutely. But don't get carried away. The snip and prop, eventually it does come back to bite you. And it's not fun. Mistake number 4, getting too many plants too fast. Yes, that is a mistake that I made in the beginning of collecting plants, and in as recent as this year when I started collecting Hoya. I know when you start getting houseplants, you get so excited, especially if you get into a genus and like Hoya or Anthurium, and you just want all the plants really quickly and you're just super excited. But be careful. What ends up happening is that you end up with a lot, especially if you decide to get a lot of really small plants, because small plants are cheaper. What tends to happen is you have a bunch of young, needy plants that require a lot of attention. And it can be super stressful to try to help all of these plants, these tiny little plants, to take off. So what I recommend, at least what I'm trying to do, is space out my purchases. I know I'm super excited about a new genus, but it's a good idea, especially if you're starting off with small plants, to sort of spread out the time in between each plant so that the baby ones that come in can sort of get established and acclimated to your space before you bring in new ones that need that much, like a whole bunch of attention and care in order to acclimate to your space. And so when you get a bunch at the same time, it can get super stressful trying to care for all of them. And then if some start to decline, you start to feel guilty, and then it sort of sucks the joy out of getting new plants. So go slow, take your time, and collect them one by one. Trust me, it's easier said than done. I know. Mistake number 5. Stop buying plants without researching them. I have done this and I still do this. And yes, I am aware that that's a bad idea, but I do it anyways. I just need to stop. It's so important to research plants before you buy them. Know your conditions as well. Know, do you have high light, like I have south facing windows, or do you have low light, lots of trees and buildings outside of your space? Know your space and research the plant that you're interested in to see if your space can really help this plant to thrive. Don't be like that girl that I know who got a new anthurium, purchased a new anthurium that has been growing in a grow tent its whole life, but this girl does not have a grow tent. And so she's wondering how she's going to care for this anthurium that she already purchased when she doesn't have said grow tent to mimic those ideal environments. Don't be like that. Don't be that person. That person will remain nameless. Don't do that. A lot of times we buy new plants, we bring it into our care, and we wonder what's going on. This plant thrives for so-and-so on YouTube, but in my space, it's doing terribly. It could just be your conditions, or maybe you're not sure, or you don't have the right medium, the substrate, the enough light, and all the things that plant needs to thrive instead of just survive. So before you get a plant, research it, find out its care, so that when it comes in, you're well equipped to set it up for success. Number 6, don't impulse buy. I know You're walking through the plant nursery. I've been there and I do a lot of houseplant shopping videos. You're walking through the nursery and there are all these tiny little adorable, really cute plants and they just look so cute and you just want to get it and you just want to get it because it's just so cute. But hold the brakes, slow down. Don't get that plant just yet. Here's why. Recently, story time, I went plant shopping. You may or may not have seen that plant shopping video. And I can't remember the name of the plant right now, but I'll put the name on the screen. So I saw this plant. It was a juvenile version of this plant and I was ready to pick it up and walk away with it. It had dark leaves. It was an alocasia. It was gorgeous, a beautiful thing. But just before I walked out the door, I decided to go ahead and look up what a mature version of this plant looks like. Granted, the mature version looked exactly like the baby version. And so I realized soon enough, even when this plant becomes mature, I don't think I'll still be in love with it. And so the mature version was very nice, but when I saw a mature version of this plant, it didn't excite me. I didn't have the same excited feeling as I felt when I looked at the baby plant. And so that can happen. You see a plant, it looks great in the greenhouse, it looks so cute, so beautiful. But then eventually, as you get home, you're sitting there, you're staring at it, eventually you realize, I don't know. And then it starts to mature and you realize that it just didn't turn out the way you imagined. So something I love doing when I'm purchasing houseplants, especially one that I see and I feel like I really want to buy it on an impulse, here's two things that I do. First of all, I like to look, just like what I said, I like to look up mature versions of the plant to see if it's a leaf shape, if it's a color, if it sort of matures in a way that I will still be in love with. I will be excited to help this plant mature. That's number one. Number two, I actually like to not get the plant unless, don't get me wrong, if there's only one left on the shelf and I did number one and I liked it, yes, I will get it. But if there's more than one on the shelf, what I like to do is actually leave the nursery. And if I'm still thinking about the plant a few days later, after I research it, I look up videos about it, and the videos actually made me more excited and not less excited about the plant, and I still really wanted it, then I would go back to pick it up. And doing these two things have saved me so much money and headache from getting plants that maybe in the moment I was in love with and then later on I wasn't so in love with. Maybe because of the mature version, like I said, or its growth habits. So yeah, that happened to me with the Philodendron Pink Princess as well. I got it and after a while, I quickly fell out of love with it. Here's another example. On my recent plant shopping trip, I saw the Anthurium wendelingeri. I can't say that. I still can't say that yet. And this is actually a very uncommon anthurium, especially for my area. And you know what? I really wanted to get it at that point, but it wasn't on my wish list. So I thought to first research it, look it up, see if I like a mature version, and B, just wait and still if I was thinking about it. And I sure was. So I went back a few days later and I picked it up. Yay, me. Number 7, stop buying plants that are too big for your space. Yes, we love those big house plants, the big fiddly figs, the big monsteras, plants that just grow and look big and are large and in charge and take up so much space. But what tends to happen is that, we get a plant, it's small and cute, but then as time goes on, you quickly realize that the plant is outgrowing your space. Don't be like this person that I know who started collecting plants some time ago, story time. When I moved into this space, I didn't have enough furniture to really fill in the entire space. So I decided to get houseplants. And I, at the time, decided to get houseplants that can be really big. Plants that take up a lot of real estate. but I got way too many of said houseplants. So I got the Monsteras, and I think I actually got more than one Monstera. I got two fiddly figs. I got Ficus burgundy, Ficus elastica burgundy with 8 plants in it. I split it up. I also got a Ficus tineki. I got so many big plants, and eventually those plants started demanding space. They started eating up all of the window space that I had, to the point that I wasn't getting a lot of light coming into my space. I mean, if I wanted to build an indoor jungle, it would have been great. But considering that I don't live by myself, I think my family members might have enjoyed just a little bit of sunlight entering the space. And so I had to chop these plants back, but they grow even bushier. And again, I start to lose love for them quickly. So consider your space, consider where you will put it. If you have enough window space to accommodate these plants, space is important. Another point is stop buying plants that you don't have time to take care of. I know that some plants are gorgeous and you just can't get enough of them, but some plants require more care than others. What is your care style? Do you like plants that need hands-on attention, that you need to check on them every couple of days? They're thirsty plants, you need to water them often. Do you like to be that plant parent who's needed by your babies? Or are you a person with a very busy schedule and you don't have the time for needy plants? You need something that is hardy, that's resilient, that won't kick up a fuss if you forgot or missed a watering. What's your plant care style like? Or maybe you do have a bunch of time on your hands, but you just don't want to be cleaning and caring for plants all day long. Consider those things before you get plants, because if you don't, those plants can quickly decline, or you may just fall out of love with. Consider your growing style, consider your preferences before you get that next plant. Last but not least, don't fall for the hype. Yes, I know sometimes your favorite YouTuber cannot stop yapping about a specific genus, like Hoya. I know it gets so tempting to get those plants that sort of go viral and that everyone's talking about. But trust me, buy plants that you like. I deliberately have been trying not to buy plants just because it seems to be in everyone's collection. But I still have bought plants just because of the hype, like the Philodendron Pink Princess. I'm sorry, you're probably so tired of me talking about this plant, but it's honestly one of the biggest letdowns in my opinion when it comes to plants and its growing habits. But everyone and their grandma was talking about this plant, and it's just crazy how popular this plant was for how underwhelming it is. So take your time. Your time and money is so precious. Know what you like and purchase plants that you like. Don't fall for the hype. Don't be overly influenced. Know what you love and get that, so you can enjoy what you have and be happy with your choices. And you'll be making meaningful choices that will be even more special and help you love your growing experience even more. So which one of these mistakes are you making? I'm making all of these mistakes, or I have made all of these mistakes. So I'm curious, which one of these mistakes are you making, and which plants are you making these mistakes with? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Thanks again for watching. If you liked this video, here are some videos I think you might enjoy. A big thank you to our Patreon members, especially our tiered members. There's Rachel and Carla in the Diamond Falls tier, Patricia in the Piton tier, and Delaney in the Pigeon Island tier.